after you've practiced several ribbons like this, you may want to try some different kinds of ribbons. So I'm going to show you some different kinds of ribbons that you can try, but you're not required to do any of these. Really, this is all just about making ribbons and practicing value exercises. But for fun, people always want to see these other kinds. So, one way to make a ribbon is to make like a long continuous back and forth S curve, like this, and then drop down a line that's maybe 1 centimeter long from each end. And then the tangent point, the widest point at the outside edge of a curve, you also want to drop a straight line down from. About 1 centimeter long on each edge of every curve. And then because it's a ribbon, the bottom line is going to be parallel to the top line. So I'm going to, if this top line, that's not perfectly straight, that curves up slightly. So here we are again doing that tracing with your eyes and following with your hand kind of a thing. So I want that line to follow that one. And notice, if this really were a ribbon, the opposite edge of it would be coming here. So this little line is going to point to the end of that little line. Okay, this little curved line is going to point to the end of this little straight line. And then I'm going to look at this curve here and repeat that here. And again, when I make the turn here to parallel that turn, this little end of this little line should be pointing straight at that end of that little straight line that's the edge of the ribbon. So now I'm looking at this curve here. I'm going to imitate that here. And again, pointing here. Now I'm looking at this curve here. Parallel that. Down we go. And finally, this curve. And notice that the bottom line is parallel to the top line. So now we have this nice little wavy, curvy thing going on. That's a fun ribbon. And again, you want to practice your values, up and down the value scale when you do that. Some people like to make a ribbon that looks like it's twisting. So here's how you can do that. Put a couple very light guidelines. Can you see my very light guidelines here? Yes, you can. And then go back and forth between these guidelines. And then imagine that you are a computer, and in your head you can copy and paste that exact line. So you're going to copy and paste that exact line just a little bit down from it. Close enough. And now this becomes very similar to this. These become the outside edges of the ribbon, what was my little guideline. And once again, I need to erase part of that X to make it look like that turn is right. So if I want it to go around and around, I'm going to erase the bottom ones on one side and the top ones on the other side, depending on how far of a curve I made this go, how many times I turned it. Okay, put back the lines I meant to keep. This was a line I meant to keep. This was a line I meant to keep. And this was the line I meant to keep. Right? Is that? Nope, I did it backwards. That was the line I meant to keep. Yeah, erase the bottom on one side, erase the top on the other side. There you go. This was the line I meant to keep. Okay, now it looks like it's turning, now it looks like it's turning, and there's the bottom of that ribbon. Some people like to make bows, so I'll go for a bow real quick here. start with a rounded corner square. Easy, right? And then put out 2 little long teardrops or rabbit ears from the bottom corners of that rounded off square. And then from the edge of each of these rabbit ears, put up a line, little antenna here, rabbit ears with antennas. And then top lines are parallel to bottom lines. So since this line curves up like this line will curve up like this, and I'll bring that back down into this little knot. And this line will curve up like this and bring that back down into that little knot. And then I can just add ribbons. I can add, you know, like that. Or I can do what we did before, you know, and let them twist and close off figure which is the outside of the curve, and erase one of those lines. Doesn't matter which one. I can turn that. Yeah. And usually a couple of calligraphic lines there going fat to thin that will indicate how the ribbon is squished as it goes into the knot. You could even have those down here. Usually you'll have a darker shadow inside the ribbon just because that's inside the ribbon and the light is blocked there. We hadn't planned on shading these all together, but give you an idea. And still value change. Right. And then up here there would be value change as well, and you can play with that. I feel like I want it a little darker there. Remember, the darker you get this, the more three-dimensional it's going to look, which is the name of the game. And of course, this part would be shaded like a sphere. Yeah, how we learned those sphere with the little crescent moon thing going on there. And then blend it out. And again, don't be afraid to go dark. Go dark or go home. Etc., etc.